Why don't you introduce yourself?
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Allie Garfinkel. I work with Anne and Adrian and Joshua in the office, and I'll let Adrian go next.
Sounds good. Thanks, Allie. I'm another advisor in the Ed Abroad office, and I've met with some of you for your next steps appointments, and others of you, this is our first time meeting. So welcome, and we're so excited that we get to take this next step forward together as a cohort. Anne, do you want to introduce Joshua since he's not able to be here with us today?
Sure. Poor Joshua is dealing with the summer grutch that's going around. It's not COVID, luckily. And Joshua is administrative assistant in our office, and he actually works with us in the Ed Abroad office, but he also works with the community-based learning point person who also has an office in the same space. So Joshua is um, also an advisor slash administrator.
Great. Sounds good. Take it away, Anne.
All right. So I want to spend a little bit of time doing in the beginning is allowing you guys to introduce yourselves to each other. Um, so we're going to do that. But first, I want to just run through some of the things that we're also going to talk about. We're going to talk about the cohort pre-departure meetings that will be coming up in September and October. And the most important thing about that is really about communication, which I'll talk a little bit about, which is look for emails. We communicate via email, PCC email, look for emails, because we will be giving you a lot more information via email in follow-ups. Know that there will be some meetings in September and October that we're going to be asking you to participate in. September, hopefully, will be an alumni panel of students who just got back from study abroad who you can ask questions to. And then October, we have specific pre-departure content that as an office we want to give to you that's not Cuba specific and not course specific, but it's all about being successful and things to plan for and just the how-tos. We're going to be talking about this course schedule and what that's going to look like, and that's Amy will be talking about that. Cuba, as the interesting place that it is, we'll be talking about some of the travel plans, Ed Abroad requirements, our study abroad partner, IFSA Butler, who will be working closely with us throughout fall term and has staff in Cuba that you'll be meeting and working with. And then, of course, some of the most important and immediate things about course registration and the payment process coming up. So this is where we get into more of the practical nitty-gritty things that need to get done phase. Because Cuba is Cuba, deadlines are critical in terms of getting paperwork done and working in partnership with IFSA Butler in making sure correct papers are filed and all the information is moving forward as necessary to ensure that we all can get you to enter Cuba in when you are ready to do so. So that means by August 15th, we absolutely need information, the following information that is in the Ed Abroad portal that several of you have already completed. So thank you. Many of you have not. So please do so. So the things that we need that are most important are the emergency context and specific and to upload your passport information. The IFSA Butler made absolutely 100% clear that we have to have the passport information on record and moving forward in the system by the end of this month. So we want to make sure that we have everybody's information by August 15th so that then we can fill out forms for them and pass it on to them so they've got it for folks in Cuba. if anyone has if that timeline is worrisome for anyone, you can let us know now, you can let us know later. But we definitely want to make sure that we have your passport information, emergency contacts, and then we do have an identity health and wellness form that we ask you to complete. And that's really more for our office's information, which allows us to see if there's anything that you want to disclose to us where we can help you figure out like how to be successful while you're overseas. So it asks about any kind of accommodations that you might receive here at PCC, et cetera. So that's just for our internal uses, and to work with you to make sure that you've got all the support that you need, moving forward. Any questions around that? All right. And if anybody does have issues connecting into the portal, please reach out to the study abroad office.
Actually, on that, can I ask a question real quick?
Mhm.
On the abroad portal right now, and I'm looking at my profile and I'm trying to edit my emergency contact, and there's a little lock on the corner of it saying that emergency contacts cannot be edited.
We can give you permission to, we can unlock that for you. And can we? I'm assuming Allie and Adrian. Okay. Yeah, we can unlock that for you, and so you can edit it.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can move on to the next slide. This, I'm not going to spend much time on this. Travel to Cuba, as some of you may know or may not know, because you can only, as a US citizen, you can only travel to Cuba for educational purposes, which obviously you are. Flights are restricted. So the only way an educational group can come in to Havana is all on the same flight. So we will be working, I still have to reach out and talk to a couple different travel agents to distill which we're going to use, but we will be utilizing a travel agent. And to ensure that you as a group are all flying on the same flight. When we were investigating flights, the best flight and the cheapest is actually a red eye from Portland to Miami, and then a layover at the Miami airport, and then Miami into Havana. Um, we know red eyes are not ideal. So there will be more information coming about flights and travel. But know that we're looking into that, and there will be a lot more specific information, but also know that it's pretty restrictive, and pretty prescriptive as to how we have to get you all into Cuba. Um, and I know that's ambiguous information if you really haven't thought about it much in terms of travel to Cuba, but that's sort of how it has to be for right now. Um, yeah, so sorry, I can't read. uh, Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah, if you wanna
actually,
repeat the
red eye.
question.
Yeah, red eye is great question. Thank you. I tend to use a lot of flight jargon because I've done a lot of flying in my life. So thank you. Red eye actually is a flight that goes overnight. So you will fly out of Portland. Say, for example, you fly out of Portland at 10 o'clock at night, and then you arrive, yes, early morning, arrive at like 6:30 a.m. because of the time change from the West Coast to East Coast, arrive at like 6:30 in the morning in Miami. So essentially you're flying overnight. Um, some people love that, other people hate it. So um, it does mess you up a little bit if you are like me, need a lot of sleep. So, but we'll be talking more about that later. And um, for those who may say there is no way I can do that and then land in Cuba and then have my head around it. Um, Amy and I have been talking about, we cannot pay for this, but if you flew in the day before, and then spent the night in Miami and then caught the same flight from Miami to Havana, So there'll be a lot more information coming up, and some different options that I'm happy to talk through with all of you guys, moving forward.
Yeah, can I just quickly add that I'm going to be in that boat for me to be able to I'm 53 years old, so my brain will definitely need a different map. So I will be going in 1 or 2 days earlier to Miami. I'm actually going to try to do some Cuban dancing during those days. So I'll be investigating hotels close to the airport, that kind of thing, so I can keep you guys up to date with what I'm learning.
Great. Thanks, Amy. Any other questions around this for now? This is more of a like, hey, just to alert you to what the situation's going to be, and much more information to follow. All right. We'll move on to the next slide, which I believe I'm going to be passing it to Adrian now.
Nice. Sounds good. Thanks, Anne. As we mentioned earlier, there are a few things to take care of to upload into our portals. So I wanted to pause just as a reminder to everybody in the group that when we say portals, there's actually two. There is the PCC Ed Abroad portal, which is where you applied to the program and you were accepted and moved along, and you've been uploading information. Thank you to everybody who has. There is also a second portal coming. You haven't received information about this yet, so don't worry if I'm catching you off guard. This portal is through IFSA Butler, who's your program provider. So they have staff in Cuba that will be supporting you, and they will need information from you as well to make any travel arrangements and have like your emergency contact information and passport information available. Yes, the two portals need similar information. And no, they don't talk to each other. We wish we could make this easier for students, but because they're two separate portals, we're just working with the systems as they are. So when we have clearance from IFSA to send out the information to you, it will come probably in the next few weeks. So again, stay and check with your email and watch for that. If you have questions about accessing either of the portals, let us know and we can help troubleshoot that. Any questions about those two things at this point? I'm hearing crickets. I'm not seeing anything on the screen, so that's good. You all know all the things. I love it. Okay, moving on. Once you arrive in Cuba, like we said, there will be staff on the ground who live in Havana, who work in the area, and so they're very familiar with all things Cuban and how it works and what to expect and how to make sure you have the best time possible while you're there. Folks from IFSA will be communicating with you before you arrive in country. We have arranged for kind of an orientation session with the Cuba cohort and IFSA Butler staff before you even arrive. So that way you can meet them virtually, you can get to know them a little bit, and they can run through some like health and safety and best practices information while you're still here in Portland or wherever you're based and you're still fresh. We want to make sure that that information lands at least once in your brain so you can recall it later if you need to. Oh, good question, Adan, about when will that happen? We're still working out details with staff on when they'll be available for that. Anne, do you have information to share about that yet?
Amy might have information to share about that, but if not, then Amy and the staff in Cuba and I are working that out to figure out the timing of that. But Amy will probably speak more to that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. When you are in Cuba, you'll be meeting Ana Rosa, who's the on-site resident director, and she will be helping coordinate your housing and lodging, which will be in Casa Particulares. And you'll also be meeting the local Cuban staff and guides for your various excursions and experiences while you're in Cuba. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk a little bit more in depth about that. As some of you know from our Next Steps meetings, I also got to go to Cuba on a study abroad program, very similar to this one when I was a grad student at Portland State University. I was studying public administration, and I went to Cuba to look at their higher education practices and how a planned economy like Cuba's relates to, or actually how a planned economy it compares to the United States in terms of higher education, degree attainment, and then job placement. And the reason I lead with that is it's so exciting for you all to be doing this program at this time. Cuba is a very special, beautiful, and different place than the United States. And Amy has clearly shared her passion about this experience with you. And she's designed a program that I can tell already is interesting to a lot of you and will really help further your passions and learning about other cultures and ways of being. Some key ways that Cuba is different from the United States is one, like I said, it's a planned economy. And that will look and feel very different when you're on the ground. It's one of those things where because we live here in the United States, which is hyper individualist and hyper capitalist, we kind of like eat, breathe, swim in that all the time. And so we think like this is just the way the world is. And so I think going to Cuba and really having this experience with Amy will show you different ways of being, different ways of thinking, different ways of considering that. Another piece of your experience that will be helpful in kind of making sense of the experiences around you is when you are in Cuba, you will have a Cuban guide with you, and oftentimes probably another staff member from IFSA Butler, from IFSA Butler, to travel around with you. And these, we call them handlers, but they are going to act as a lens for you in which to understand the conversations that you're having with people, the visits with local nonprofits and community organizations, and kind of help translate that in a way. And so it's going to be interesting for you because, of course, every guide will come with their own experiences and their own perspectives. And because you will have multiple guides with you, you will get to experience Cuba through different lenses. And Amy is going to serve as one of those too. So this is an incredible opportunity for you to really lean in and just be the sponge and learn. And I'm so excited for everybody. Kind of relating to that too, with the current relationship that Cuba has with the United States, as Anne mentioned, US citizens are allowed to go to Cuba on kind of these education experience visas. We've taken care of all of that, so no worried about getting any extra paperwork done. But that means that when you're in Cuba, there will be I'm not going to say restrictions, but there will be a tightly controlled schedule in terms of where you go and what you do. And there's less of an ability for you to do some independent travel around the island, for example. And that's just kind of the case of where things are at currently, like legally and politically within the country. So I'm sure Amy will expand more on that later in her course, but I just wanted to kind of add that to kind of your intro to Cuba portfolio as you start to really prepare for this experience in advance so you can get the most out of your time when you're in Havana and interacting with people. Anne, anything to add to that, or Amy, anything to add to that at this point?
The
Not me. I feel like we're in, go ahead.
No, sorry, Amy, I'm just looking at stuff in the chat. And so there was a question around having one handler or multiple handlers. And so actually we'll find out from IFSA how they organize that, because it could be either. And then there's another question. It says, will we have any time to walk around Havana at all? Yes, you will. And the Casa Particulars, they're not homestays. It's a very unique Cuban thing. But you will be with a family, and that family may be very interactive or they might not be. It really depends on, they're really hosts. Kind of like the only equivalent I can come up with is like Airbnb. If you're staying in, like sometimes you see a host and sometimes you don't. And so they can also be great windows into Cuban culture and society, depending on how interactive the Casa Particular folks that you meet are with you.
Yeah, that's a great way to talk about it too. Keaton, to more fully answer your question too, you will have some time to walk around and explore the area and, you know, check out shops and everything. It's I think I just led with the like independent travel part. It's just a way to remind people that the movement in this program is tracked in a different way than, say, studying abroad in London for the summer would be. And so I wanted to make sure that people, you know, have good expectations or clear expectations going into this. So thank you all for asking questions in the chat as we're going through this. We're here to help support you and make sure that you can be successful during this experience. So if other things come to mind, feel free to put them in the chat.
And then Amy, what did you want to add as well?
I was just going to say I don't have anything else to add, and it sounds like we're in really good hands. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Okay, with that, we're going to transition over to some more pressing things, what's coming up next. So I'm going to hand it over to Allie to walk us through course registration and payment.
Thanks, Adrienne. We're going to try to be brief, but we know there's a lot of questions about course registration and payment since that's coming up. So we wanted to lay it out because it is a little bit clunky with the PCC system. So you will get an email about the course registration and payment in the next few weeks. We're definitely going to give you plenty of time before the deadline in September. But we wanted to walk through it now. But again, you'll see this in writing. You can review this recording. We're happy to walk you through with any questions. Can you go to the next slide? So registering for the study abroad course is really similar to registering for any other PCC course you've taken. With one exception, we used a closed CRN, which basically means that we don't publish the CRN you need to sign up for the class. So that way we make sure the people who've paid the deposit and have been preparing for this program are the people that sign up for the course. So Amy will be giving you permission for that. And then we'll be sending you an email with directions. But essentially it is, once you have that CRN to sign up, it is really similar to the way you register for your other classes. Once you register, the tuition and the program fee are then put onto your account. So we're going to talk you through that a little bit more. Can you go to the next slide? Thanks. So when you're ready to register for the course, you're going to navigate to your My PCC dashboard. You'll click the My Courses tab and select Register for the classes. And if there's anything specific with the closed CRN, we will be sure to send you that in writing. And if you have any issues while you're registering, there's a really good checklist that you can take a look at. It looks like this page. You can navigate back to your home page and check the term to term checklist section. If you see a red icon like we're showing you here, it means there's some sort of issue in the enrollment process at PCC. Don't panic. This is really common. There are many different reasons why you might see this red flag. So just bring it to our attention. You can bring it to Amy's attention, and we can help you work through why this might be. Again, don't panic. Usually there's some hiccup within the system that we can pretty easily fix and walk you through. And we want to walk through the payment process a little bit so you know what to expect. After you register for your course, as I mentioned, your payment will be posted to your student account. This is the tuition and the program fee will be put to your account. Now, remember, you paid a $500 deposit already. However, due to a system issue in PCC, the total amount of the program fee and tuition that you're going to see on your account will not reflect the fact that you've paid $500. You know you paid $500. We know that you paid $500. It's just not showing up on that particular page on your program fee. Now, don't worry, we have a workaround. You're going to have 3 payment options. If you want to pay just what you owe, that would be minus the $500 that you've already paid. You can pay in person at a student accounts office or via the phone where you talk to a human being. And then you tell them, I've already paid a deposit for study abroad, and here's the amount that I want to pay, and you pay your remaining balance. If you want to do it online via your PCC Pay, you will need to pay that whole amount, including the $500, but you will get a refund of that money, like a true deposit. And so we know this is a little bit wonky. We really just try to work within the PCC systems as best we can. The payment due date is September 9th. That's a Monday. Because it's a fall term, there is a payment plan available. You need to sign up for that ahead of time. And if you don't submit your payment by September 9th, you may be dropped from the course due to the non-payment policy at PCC. So work with us if you're having any issues, because we want to be able to help you through it and understand sort of all the issues around it. I am going through this really quickly, so if you have any questions, feel free to pipe up or put them in the chat. We're happy to kind of discuss it a little bit more. Can you go to the next slide? Thanks. If you want to look at your bill after you register for your course, you can see on your My PCC homepage, click the Paying for College tab, and then you can click the View My Bill in PCC Pay link, and that will show you where everything is. And this page should look familiar. It's where you submitted your deposit for the program. From here, you can submit your fall term payment, like we mentioned, and you can view your statement under the View Statements tab. Now, remember, there are 3 options: to pay over the phone, to pay in person, and those 2 ways you'll actually just pay what you owe minus the $500. And if you pay online via your PCC Pay, you will pay the whole amount, and then you will be refunded the $500. And that usually happens in the 2nd week of the term. I think there was one question in the chat. Let's see if I can find the chat. I'm not able to see it.
Looks like Keaton was asking, what was the code for the class registry again? Oh, the closed CRN code.
Oh, the closed CRN. We will give it to you.
Allie, it's also on the slide.
I know, I have to scroll up for the slide.
Yeah, let's see, let me go back in the slides since we're all here.
It is 45265.
But remember, you cannot register until Amy gives you permission in Banner in our student software system. So she has to give everyone permission because it's a closed CRN to actually register for the course.
So we'll email
And,
you after it does that. Amy?
Right. Can you give us do you have a time frame as to when I'll be giving those permissions?
You and I can talk about that, but in my mind, you know, as soon as you are able, because since fall registration started in June, we can do it anytime.
Oh, great. Okay. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Adon, I love that you hopped into the chat to give the code too. Thank you, appreciate that. Raven asks, payment in person, I assume it means by check, or are there certain payments accepted or not accepted?
You can do
Mm.
check, credit card, debit card if you have the money in your account. I don't think they accept cash. But
It's always been a question we've had.
yeah, it has. It's come up quite a bit. And we just usually recommend calling the student accounts office. And that number, and I can put it in the chat. I'll put the student accounts number in the chat as well, so that you guys can capture it.
You
Great.
wanted to,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Ellie.
do you want to do the recap?
Yeah,
Adrian?
go ahead. The recap. Thank you.
Great.
Great. So we talked about a lot of things. We talked about registration. We talked about payment and how to do it. We talked about issues. To help you troubleshoot your way through PCC, we are more than happy to help you along the way. As a reminder, if you have issues with registration, contact the Ed Abroad advisors, Allie and myself, and Amy, so that we can troubleshoot in real time to see where you're stuck and to get you unstuck, move you forward in the process. If you find out that you're dropped from the course for whatever reason, same thing, contact the Ed Abroad office and Amy. If you have questions about financial aid and what that's going to look like for you in fall term, contact our financial aid officers, Melinda Leva or Matt Sagayaga. We know that there has been a lot of delays and resulting frustrations from the financial aid rollout this year. We are so sorry and empathetic to students who are just trying to make this work for themselves. I am not a financial aid advisor, so I can't promise that things won't be crazy in fall, but who knows? Maybe they'll be worked out by then. In any case, if you have questions regarding financial aid, they are the people to ask. If you have a question about payment, did it go through? Is it showing up? Lynn Baxter is your person for that. And if you were awarded a PCC Foundation scholarship, congratulations, that's amazing. You may want to follow up with the foundation to see about the disbursement of that. And sometimes scholarships are dispersed out over multiple terms, and sometimes they can be dispersed all in one term. So we wanted to give you that information if that applies to you. Let's see, I'm looking over here in the chat. Anne is providing information about student accounts. Great. Awesome, thank you. I'm going to take a breath here and see if there are any questions from the group. Let me stop sharing here.
I wonder if before we go to questions, I give a quick presentation about
Yes.
our schedule.
Great,
Can you-
thanks, Amy.
Adrian, can you just go back to the schedule slide?
Sure.
I can't see that schedule slide, so let me know if there's any contradiction. I'm sorry?
You can just start talking and we'll get the slide up. There you go.
Fall course is 11 weeks, and so we are meeting online asynchronously week 5 through 8 to begin. And I only teach online, so I'm going to use what I know about creating a sense of community, providing discussion questions and assignments that will, one, help you guys dive into the content, but also get to know each other during those first 4 weeks. I will assign assignments in addition to weekly discussions. Haven't decided what those are yet, but there will be at least 1, maybe 3 essays, and some other kind of presentation work. So it's going to be slightly more condensed than my usual online courses, just because I need to get, we need to get the content and assessment work through. And then weeks 9 and 10, we won't meet online, or I'm saying meet online, I mean not at the same time, but we won't do coursework online, but we will schedule 2 Zoom calls. And I want to kind of leave those open. I want weeks 9 and 10 to be where you guys are doing independent work. So where you're diving into what you really want to focus on when you're in Cuba. Some of you already have some great ideas, and you can use those 2 weeks to help flush that out, explore with me, without me, with each other. So we'll dedicate time during over Zoom for us to help figure out how you guys can best make those connections once you hit the ground. And during one of those, we'll have Rosanna come and join us so she can talk more about the excursions and the experiences that we'll have in Cuba. And then we are going to travel December 11th to get, most of you, I'm assuming, December 11th to get to Miami by the 12th. And I don't think we've covered this, but that's, as you all know, it's Wednesday of finals week. So what we're asking you to do is reach out to your instructors, letting them know that this is a different schedule for you, and we are very available to communicate with your instructors if there's any kind of concern about that. And Anne might have something additional to say for that.
Yes. So for those of you who are taking, you know, a regular course load, whether it's full or part-time for fall term, I would encourage you to reach out to your faculty. I know a lot of faculty don't respond to email at all during the summer. So as soon as you are able, and as soon as you are, as soon as they're responsive, is to reach out to your faculty to let them know that you're going to be participating in this course. It does require departure during finals week, and to ask if that's going to be a problem with the course content. And if arrangements can be made. And if they have any questions, and if they seem put out by this request, please, please, please let me know. I am happy to provide letters of support. I'm happy to talk to faculty directly. I'm happy to talk to their deans. I'm happy to do whatever it takes to allow you, without any ill consequence, to participate in this class. So I don't want you guys feeling stressed out over potential conflicts that might arise in that nature.
Yeah, and the reason that we scheduled a departure during finals week was that Cuba staff goes on Christmas vacation the 24th, Christmas Eve. And so in order for us to have enough time in Cuba, there's really no other way to work that out. The textbook is open source, so you will not need to pay for it. There's a chance it will not be published then. If not, we're just going to work out of my Google documents. And I'm not sure how the assessment is going to be in Cuba. I need to do some investigating because the internet is available at sometimes, but I hear it's always improving. So I'll be following up during the course, probably pretty early in the course, about what kind of expectations we can have about doing, you know, work, be it written or other kind of presentation while we're in Cuba. And that's all I have.
And what I will again sort of state, because I know not every one of you heard this at the beginning, at the initial kind of rundown through the itinerary, we were talking about meetings that were going to happen in September and October. So there's going to be another meeting that we are working on putting together in September, where we are hoping that we can have some alumni from other study abroad programs that can kind of talk through questions you might have. They won't be obviously students who have returned from Cuba, but they will just return from a PCC study abroad program. And so we did this for the cohort of students who are currently overseas right now, and it was really helpful, and I think people got some important information out of it. So we'll be putting that together in September. We'll be sending you an email on sort of a choice of dates. We've got some flexibility in that timeline, but not 100% flexibility. And then we do have 2 required pre-departure sessions that the study abroad office does, where we want to give you required information on health, safety, risk, and just generally how to stay successful and stay on track for this program. So, and again, we'll probably give you a couple options and then schedule it when most of you, when that option works best for most of you. So cannot reiterate enough. Check that email, because we'll be sending you information. We do have Google Voice, obviously, and we bug people over Google Voice, but it's always easier if you can just respond via email.